Yeah. All right, I'm adding you. Right, there we go. All right, somebody in the chat. If anybody's in the chat, let me know if you guys can hear us. This is me, Smalls. Ray, you there? Let me see if I can hear you.
I am here.
Okay, I can hear you. Sounds good. Somebody in the chat, let me know if you can hear us. Let me see. We've got our live stream manager coming shortly. This is sort of kind of a last minute stream. We didn't really promote it. I wasn't really sure if I was going to be able to join. Thank you, Tootsie June, Parmjit. Thank you so much for letting us know you can hear us. Yeah, I wasn't sure. Wasn't sure if I was going to be out of the hospital in time. So we're here. So thank you guys for bearing with us. We've got a few things that we're going to do tonight. So we are going to. So first of all, this let me just introduce myself. My name is Smalls. My pronouns are she, her. I'm here on Chumash and Tongva land here in Southern California, better known as LA. And then right now I got Ray. You want to introduce yourself? Give them your details.
Yes, I'm Ray, Afro Turban Guy, my handle and everything. I'm from Houston, Texas originally, but by way of Colorado at this time. This is most of it.
Exactly. All right. So here's what the thing that we sort of thought, just based on the feedback that we've gotten from other live streams, we figured we'd do like a weekday one, right? We normally do it on the weekends, but we figured we'd do a weekday evening live, and then something a little bit more chill. So on these live streams, these Wednesday night lives, we might not just talk about the intersection of Black and Sikh. Really, we'll talk about anything. It might be the intersection of culture and faith, a different culture, a different faith. It could be anything. So these will be a little bit more chill. So for tonight, we've got a couple of Reddit posts that the idea I got from this was that, like, I watch Reddit. I use Reddit. I'm a Reddit user, right? And so sometimes I'm looking at stuff and, like, I really want to respond. Sometimes it's old and I'm like, this is wild, but I just kind of like really want to discuss it. And so sometimes we discuss it in the group chat. And so we figured we'd bring it here to the live stream, to the Black and Sikh platform, to the Black and Sikh channel.
Oh my
And so
God.
we're going to talk a little bit about some Reddit posts. What happened?
I legit just realized we'll have to keep it for another one, but there's a really good one that I saw a while back. I should have sent it to you.
Oh,
Just to
okay.
give you a preface for it, it was basically a Reddit where people were mentioning admit something that you've been embarrassed about one of your exes, and when I tell you the horror stories that people had, it's a really good bad thread.
And
So
it's
yeah, I
related
gotta
to like
find that.
religion and faith or culture, or it's just a random Reddit story.
It's one of those random Reddit things in
Oh,
general. We
okay.
could probably talk about that one eventually too. But it was interesting. I'll
Okay,
have to send
gotcha.
it to you so you can check it out eventually. It just crossed my mind because you were talking about Reddit because I follow Reddit too.
Yeah, gotcha. So yeah, I don't know if we have any other Reddit users, but so I don't know if you guys have seen any of these stories, but they're kind of wild. Some of them are really wild, but so they're all relevant. In some way or another, they're all relevant to the things that we discuss here on the platform. So we're gonna do that. We're also gonna do this sort of like comment section cleanup type thing. That's the only name I got for it right now, but it's just like some of the comments we get. Some of them are wild, some of them are ridiculous. We just ignore them straight away, right? But some of them are just like, I don't always have the spoons to respond right there in real time. Also, I have a policy about not responding if I'm in my feelings, right? Like whatever the feeling is, if I'm experiencing any feeling or emotion like pretty intensely, it could be positive, it could be negative, it could be neutral, whatever it is, I always want to like pause and like reflect and think about it and then come back. But then the only problem with that is once I process pretty quickly, I sort of get over it and I forget and I kind of don't care and I just don't go back, right? So there's some things that we want to address, some things we want to reply to. Now, whether these people see them or not, a lot of times my policy for social media, for whether or not I respond or comment, is not necessarily for the person who wrote the comment, right? It's usually for somebody else who may see it, right? Maybe somebody
Mm-hmm.
who's on the fence, maybe somebody who is sort of arguing in good faith and they hear that one way or another, right? So that's really the point of this. It's not necessarily to like teach or correct or respond to the person who left the comment. Like if they see it, lovely, great. If they don't, that's okay too, because maybe somebody else has the same question or the same thought or is wondering. And so we're going to do that. And then
It's
the
much like
third
a
thing.
debate.
Hmm?
it's much like debate. When you're debating someone, oftentimes the full goal is not to be able to convince that other person. It's actually for the audience.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And which I think is interesting because I hate arguing. This is something I've said a few times, but like I hate arguing. I'm the type of person where it's like I know what I'm talking about 100%, and there's really no need for me to like debate or go back and forth with you because I know what I'm talking about, or I don't know 100%, and then I should probably be listening, right, instead of really trying to argue my point. So that's sort of like my theory about like why I don't argue. Now debate is a little bit different. I did debate when I was younger. I enjoy debate. Debate can be productive, but arguing just for the sake of arguing, I'm not really a
Oh
fan.
no,
But
not gonna do it.
but then we have a third thing. What was the third thing, Ray? Why am I blanking on the third thing? Uh
Hey, real quick.
Reddit. Um
Just looked at it again. My second. Give me 1 second. It was
not
Reddit.
us both forgetting.
Oh,
I'm going
pop
back to the
quizzes.
agenda.
Yeah, that was pop quizzes and
Right.
grocery.
We got Nique coming on. Nique is gonna come
Mm-hmm.
on. They're gonna let us know when they're ready. But so this is a thing that I have experienced before, but that Nique sort of brought to the group chat the other day, where somebody was like quizzing her, right? Like somebody was like, "Oh, you're sick? Oh, okay. Name the first guru."
Oh
Excuse me,
God,
what? We're not doing that. Oh,
I must not have
you
been
didn't see
there
the
for that.
screenshot? Oh,
No.
oh, I was pissed. Oh, I was pissed. I would because one, people try that with me, but they've never been so like blatant and like name the first guru, right? They're always like, "Can we have a conversation so I can understand your beliefs?" No. Like, why do you no? We can't. Or like there's this like subtle like way that they want to like try to quiz me or whatever. But to me, this goes back to the whole like, proof that they do see color, that they do see a difference, and that we are treated differently as a result, because there's these assumptions that come with us being black and Sikh, right? That are like,
Hmm.
are you lying? Are you faking it? Or because I think the real reason I was pissed about that, which we can get into this more later, but I think the real reason I was pissed about that is because one, what a basic ass question to ask somebody who says they've been practicing Sikhi or is Sikh. Of all the things that you could ask to like test if they're really sick or if they're legit, you ask who the first guru is. Like that's not like a easily Googleable answer. Like
Exactly.
I'm almost offended about how basic the question is. Like give me a like you could at least said like the seventh guru, like you could have done like a trick type question, all right? Like who was the last guru, right? Like then you could have been like, oh, what do you mean? Do you mean
And
like
it
Guru
really
Granth
doesn't
Sahib
prove
Ji or
anything. It won't. It
it
doesn't prove
doesn't.
anything.
It doesn't. So to me, it's just so disrespectful. It's just so disrespectful. But yeah, so we'll talk a little bit more about that, about like this idea of folks trying to invalidate black Sikhs, and then the fact that like Deep said it last time that and Deep will be on the stream too. But Deep said it last time that there's a specificity that comes with the black experience, the black American experience, but then the black Sikh experience. And so when we talk to
Hmm.
other Sikhs, other non-Punjabi Sikhs who are also not black, they seem to have a very different experience than we do. Like, yes, there's some overlaps, there's some things we share, but there are some things that I've come to discover, like which I'm saying come to discover, I'm not really surprised. But there are things like the white Sikhs don't experience at all
Of course not.
that we seem
Um.
to experience all the time.
Well, to be honest, that's really big. Well, we'll get into that when we get to that. But yeah, definitely have my reasons for that. I know exactly why that is.
Yeah, I think we both know why that is. But anyways, we will get there. Okay, so here, oh, you know what? I really wanted to put the Reddit comments up on the stream, but I didn't get a chance to log in. So let me see if I'm just gonna pull it up here. And bear with me. Okay, here we go. That's do you have a preference for like the first one that you want to do? We talked about there's one about the queerness and Sikhi and self-expression, and then the being in the religion closet, which I think is an interesting one. And then you talked about the weaponizing religion in divorce, which I think is very interesting.
Yeah,
Uh,
that one was. That
do you
one
want to?
was. I guess we could do the uh, the queerness one first, then do maybe the the Dang, why am I blanking again? The one that you liked first. We could do that one again after as well. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay. Cool. 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 All right. So let me see. I've got this open. Now I very rarely use Reddit on desktop mode. So, um, I have it, but if I can't find it in a few seconds, I'm just gonna read it from my phone because I have it pulled up here on my
Me
phone. But
too. Mine's on my phone as well.
right. Okay. So let me just read it. See if I can find it. But if not, it's okay. All good. Okay. So here it is. This is an "Am I the asshole" post, right? Okay. So would I be the asshole for using my ex-husband's religion against him to win custody of my kids? Okay. It says it's just as the title says. I, 34 female, was married to my ex, 39 male, for 12 years. Together for 13, if that tickles anyone's fancy. I don't know why that would, but anyways, together we have two amazing daughters that I have practically raised alone since my ex worked a lot. And no, I'm not exaggerating. My ex was going to school and getting his degree in law while I studied at home. In addition to taking care of my girls, I also had a full-time job. Jesus. Worked on my degree using online wait a minute. Wait. They were married. The husband was in law school. They had two kids. She was working full time while raising the kids as a single parent because but she was also
And
in school.
doing online school.
This is too much.
Yes.
This is way too much. Anyways, okay. So if y'all didn't catch that, they were both in school, both working full time, and she was raising the kids. Okay. Then she says it was a lot. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. On top of that, I have many mental health issues. Good God. PTSD, anxiety, periods where I struggle with depression, etc. But I endured because I didn't have any other choice. He was gone sometimes up to 18 hours a day. Oh, that's all day. Okay. It could be weeks where the only time we saw him was when he came home to sleep. Back then, I did my best to support him and didn't complain much, like the fact that I was very lonely without him and it was hard to raise two girls alone. Why did you? Never mind. Never mind. I don't want to sound judgmental. Okay.
Are you
Um.
gone all day for law school?
um. Anyway, I was very lonely without him. It was hard to raise two girls alone, especially because our eldest daughter is autistic. Okay, you know what? Is this a real story? Good God.
They made all
It's
the wrong decisions.
it's a mild degree, but still, any disruption to her routine can send her into a downward spiral where she closes off to us. It's sometimes hard to get her back out of her shell, which is why she must experience as few changes as possible. If you guys don't know about autism, that sounds very typical, very
Hmm.
normal. Okay. So, because of all of the above, I didn't prioritize basic household chores. How could you? Okay. Instead, I focused my attention on making sure there was food on the table, the kids had clean clothes, make sure they did their homework, and that I think this is father-in-law didn't overdose on his medication or burn down the house.
They
What
taking
did
care of the father-in-law too.
Oh, child, the father-in-law did. Yes, they are. The father-in-law has Parkinson's and dementia, and on top of that was diagnosed with prostate cancer 3 years ago. And yes, on top of that, I worked a 40-hour job and attended college classes. If all goes well, I'm graduating this year. This would, however, piss off my ex. He would always go into a fit of rage if he came home to a dirty home, it's in quotes, dirty home. He would verbally lash out at me and call me lazy and not fit to be a mother because I wasn't taking care of our home. He would also complain about why I spent so much time on my laptop instead of doing what all other normal moms do, and said I was neglecting my kids. All of these are like quotes, as in things that he said directly in quotes. Okay.
Nique is ready, by the way.
Okay. I work from home, but it was still a job that required me to be in attendance. Oh, I see. Okay. So despite being home, I was also at work. So yeah, with my work and classes, I sometimes spent most of my waking hours on a laptop. But that didn't mean my ex could verbally lash out at me. Oh,
I
but
mean,
did
she
that
was
mean my ex
doing
could verbally
school.
lash out at me? No, sir, you can't. As you've probably predicted, this was a tension point for us because I don't think I was neglecting my kids, but you're welcome to judge. I was doing the best I could with the resources I had. I'm also a minimalist, so clutter was usually the kids' toys lying around or laundry that hadn't been folded and put away. Girl, now money. I've recently published a book. Yet I've recently published a book. Yes, amid all this chaos, I also wrote a book. So for a while, I made more money than him. He never said anything about it and seemingly was happy about my success. However, suddenly every single bill that comes through our door has to be paid by me, as well as the mortgage on his house. Now, let me explain. He owned a home, he owned a house he'd inherited from his grandfather before we got together. But because of work, we don't live there. He renovated it and took out massive loans on the house. And okay, sure, I get it. It's a lot to pay off student loans and the mortgage and double utilities. So I did what any good wife does and helped him out. This goes on for about 6 months until everything I've been saving up is gone. And you'd think that then it would be over, right? Wrong. When I refused to pay his mortgage anymore, he kicked me out. And yes, I became homeless. Now, call me stupid, naive, or whatever, but I really, really loved this man. Girl, I didn't want a
What's
divorce,
love
and
got to do with it?
I didn't want a divorce, and I didn't want to split up our family, especially because of our eldest daughter. However, it all came to a head when my ex accused me of not wanting to divorce him, so he couldn't collect financial benefits for being a single parent. But he's not a single parent. Okay. So sorry, my man. Here, let me help you with that. Divorce. Oh, I love her sarcasm. Okay. Now, because he kicked me out and I was homeless, I couldn't bring my girls with me, so they stayed with him. In our country, oh, not the US. In our country, the parent who lives with the children is the parent with primary custody. It's called primary because he doesn't have full custody of them, meaning that he's in charge but can't do anything or go anywhere in regards to them without my consent. Now, it's been a while and I'm getting back on my feet. I've gotten over my feelings for him, found a place to live, and bought a car. But in all this time, co parenting with my ex has been a BEITCH. We had a sort of agreement that he would have the kids on weekdays because they had school to attend and whatnot, and I would have them on the weekend. And if something came up, we would make arrangements. Well, something came up all right, all the time. And no, not in the fun post breakup way either. Just in the first month, there was a total of 3 days that I didn't pick up the girls and had them at my place. And shit didn't get any better. I have an exam coming up. Well, I guess I can study to the sound of Coco Melon. I'm sick. Guess what? Chicken soup is on the menu. Guess what, kids? Chicken soup is on the menu tonight. If I ever told him no or that I couldn't take them, he would be okay. So I see. So I was confused at first, but it sounds like when he's supposed to have the kids, he would constantly call her and be like, "It's your time to have the
Mm-hmm.
kids." And so she constantly had them during the week, even though she wasn't supposed to. She's supposed to just have them on the weekend. Okay, cool. If I ever told him no or that I couldn't take them, he would become verbally abusive toward me, saying that I wasn't cooperating with him and that if I didn't do what he wanted, he'd make sure I never saw my girls again. Oh, and did I mention that I pay him child support? Yeah. Anyway, on top of that, now he's accusing me of neglecting my children because I've begun writing a second book. This was supposed to give me more income, but now I have to put it on hold because I'm so sick and tired of this. I filed for primary custody of my girls, and our court date has been set for late next month. Now, this is where I might become the asshole. My ex is extremely religious. And because of that, he has a problem with everything homosexual, LGBT, LGBTQ plus. Personally, I think that love comes in many shapes and forms, and I want my girls to grow up and embrace and accept differences, be they racial, cultural, or sexual. Like normal people. I know that my ex doesn't share this view. He is a conservative Baptist, think extreme Christian, and believes that anything out of the ordinary is a sin, and everyone that doesn't think and act like him will go to hell. Would I be the asshole if I use his religion against him to win I think this is supposed to say custody over my girls? I know that if I do, I will win. Our country was and still is very conservative and has been struggling for ages to become more liberal. Among these struggles are the homosexuals' rights to be accepted for who they are, which means that if I bring this up, the system will let things go my way as to not stir the pot because it's boiling over here, people. A part of me is bitter/petty enough to just go ahead with it. But on the other hand, I don't want to use a cause where people struggle to get accepted just for being them. I want what is best for my children, but I don't want to be that person either. So would I be the asshole? Sorry for any errors. I have dyslexia. Well, you did a damn good job for somebody with dyslexia. Anyway, what do y'all think? First, let me, Ray, go ahead. I'm going to bring in Nique, but Ray, what are your thoughts just initially?
Well, like we said multiple times, first and foremost, that's a hell of a lot. Um, and to be quite honest, when it comes to relationships, most of the time, I'm generally not a person that's pro petty. But I honestly don't even think that I don't think that it would be petty because I made a decision a long time ago for myself that if worldview wise we can't find some kind of agreement, that does affect your ability to raise your children. if I know that I want my kids to be brought up in a way that they are open and accepting of all people, and I know I mean, first of all, that's the reason a lot of times you need to screen these people before you have kids with them anyway. But that
Absolutely.
being said, I don't see that as an invalid thing to bring up, because you already know that this man that you're no longer in a relationship with is going to be enforcing, not enforcing, but I guess influencing the worldview of your children.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
I don't think it's petty.
Yeah, not only do I not think it's petty, I think it should be made clear. I don't. I mean, sure, perhaps I have a bias, right? Like, but to me,
Same.
I yeah, no, I don't. First, of all, I don't really understand people who claim to be allies on the one hand, but then marry people who are like homophobic or racist or whatever against the group that you claim to be an ally. How? How? I don't actually believe that you can possibly
Because
be an ally, but
my
also be
sister's the
married
same
to.
way.
Yeah,
That's one of the first things my sister asked the guy when she dating them, because me and my
yeah,
sister are like this, so she don't play that.
right, right. Yeah, I don't buy that. I just don't buy it. I mean, I think it's easy to call yourself an ally and whatever, but I just no, no. So to me, if and I'm gonna use this example, right? My godson, right? He I was very intentional about making sure that he things were not gendered in ways that they didn't need needlessly gendered, or whatever, just about being open. Now there was no agenda, there was no like queer agenda or like me trying to make him believe certain things. Things were just not needlessly gendered, right? He really loved bright colors, and so sometimes his dad had a problem with him wearing certain colors. I remember going shopping for shoes when he was younger, and he was at an age where it's like, yeah, you can pick out what shoes do you like, what would you like to wear. And the response was like, "Oh, his dad's not gonna like that." What? What do you mean? It's a color. It's a primary color. Like, what do you mean? And I will just say, I won't talk too much about it, but I will just say, long story short, the last time I saw him, he was making comments that were both colorist and homophobic, right? So I remember that there was something on TV, and he was like, "Ew," and I was like, What is ew? What's happening?" I wasn't paying attention, and he's like, "The two guys, they're kissing, ew," and I'm like, "Where the hell did you get this idea from?" Right? And then the time passes, and then he makes a comment about his mom's skin being prettier than his dad's, and they are very, very different colors, like opposite ends of the spectrum, right? Very, very light and very, very dark. And so he was saying that the dark skin was just like very not pretty and cute and whatever. And it just kind of like proved my point that like you cannot have one parent in the household who is not committed to being an ally or to being open or to being equal, and not be intentional about how you raise your kids and then expect them to just be okay. Like, if he's on his iPad constantly, then this kid is a genius, right? He's hyperlexic, so he can read a whole bunch of stuff. He can find anything that he wants. There's no parameters, there's no guards on what he's looking at, there's no telling what he's reading. Like, we hear all the time about how like young boys are getting caught up in like the manosphere and blah 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 blah. So I don't actually think that's using his religion against him. I think that's being honest
Mm-mm.
about the fact that his beliefs are harmful to your children, and you need to do something about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't. That's my take on it. I don't know. What do y'all think? Nick, we got any?
So, I the parts that I heard after something about a whore, and then I was just like, wow. And then I heard the rest, about how he was just being very abusive, and I wouldn't be with him. Like, girl, leave his ass. What are
They're
you?
getting divorced, but she's trying to figure out if she's going to use this, like his religious beliefs, against him to get custody of her kids, right? In the custody fight, she's finally leaving it. Well, I mean, to be honest, I don't know that she left him. I think he left. It sounds like he left her. Like, he was like,
It
he put
does.
her out when he had no use for her anymore, which is wild. I'm not gonna go too far on that, right? Because I've never been in that situation. But
I mean,
um,
after her paying his mortgage, like, you
Girl,
gonna give me a piece of that.
all I gotta say is do whatever you gotta do to get your kids out of that situation.
Yep.
Because if it was me, and my that would not maybe he would have been going to jail. He would have been going to jail because that's like really, you want your kids to grow up like that, like be like their father, very hateful. Like why is there so much hate in this man that he's influencing these kids to bring more hate to the world. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm not. I don't understand that. I don't understand that one bit. Okay. Any other thoughts on that? Let me see if anybody has any comments on that. Let's see. That's not related, but I actually do want to read that comment. There's some deep rooted Caspias and great to yep. Okay. All right, so no comments on that. So let's go to the next one. Well, actually, let me pause for a second because I do want to read these comments before we lose them. I think this Parmjit Singh says police in the UK have recently had their lawyers accuse Paul Sher Singh of not actually being Sikh and that he only dresses as a Sikh with a kirpan to provoke the police just because he's black. What? Wait a minute. We need to look into. Wait, what? Police in the UK. Did I read that right? Police in the UK have recently had their lawyer. That's wild. Okay, we need to look at. Have y'all heard about that?
I hadn't heard anything about that. No,
I've not heard anything about that either. That's I'm actually gonna take a screenshot just because I don't want to lose that. That's wild. Okay. I don't know how to say sorry. PSK. I'm not sure how that username goes. Is said, but I went to school in India. Skin color discrimination between Indian people is super prevalent. Definitely not everyone though. Yeah, for sure, not everyone.
Yeah.
One thing that I don't really understand is why people are acting so shocked that like the very people who are saying like the Gurdwara is open to everyone is welcome, everybody's one, this, that, and the third, are the same people who hear their family members and perhaps even participate in anti-black rhetoric and conversation around the dinner table or casual conversation of that's super anti-black. Because anytime I ask them, it's like the very person who's saying this, and I've got the messages, but like the very person who's saying like we're all one, we're all the same, like you don't need a black Gurdwara, everybody's welcome at the Gurdwara, are the same people that when I ask and say, oh, you never hear any like anti-black rhetoric, like you never been around any South Asians or Punjabi Sikhs who talk like that? Oh well, yeah, no, I do for sure. That's pretty common. No, that's pretty common. What? Like so what do you say? It's like I posted something. If you haven't seen it, I posted on the Black and Sick story, the illusion of inclusion, right? I think that was what consciously said. But there's a tweet that says, if you don't tackle the racism, if you don't tackle the anti-blackness, your quest for diversity, it's just all you're doing is inviting people of color and marginalized people into a violent space. That's all you're doing, right? And that's really how I feel about Gurdwaras. That's why I stopped taking a chance and just dropping into anyone just because, oh, there's one here, or because I used to do that, right? I travel a lot and I see, oh, is there a Gurdwara nearby? Let me see. And I stopped doing that because I don't know what I'm gonna get, right? Especially if I'm by myself, I don't know what I'm gonna get, and it could be violent. And when I say violent, I don't mean physical violence. I mean anti-blackness is violence. Like that is stuff that adds up, it builds up, whether it's a microaggression or a macroaggression, it adds up and builds up. It doesn't have to be physical. It's still violent. And don't,
and it still can lead to being physical. But it's like, I was going to touch on that too, because being a person that's like always kind of, we briefly joked about it before, but being a black guy, alternative black, quote unquote, being a person that's always like been into a lot of different things that weren't maybe considered traditionally or culturally things that everybody where I'm from did. So I've never really had problems going into spaces or being interested in spaces that sometimes I would walk in and there was nobody that looked like me. But that being said, there is something to be said for the fact that we have to recognize that there's an extra amount of effort and labor that's required for a person to even do that, because that's a scary situation. You don't know what you're walking into. You don't know what to expect. I don't know what I'm getting from these people. I don't know what I'm going to be met with when facing this. So a lot of times when people are like, oh, well, it's not that we're not welcome. It's just that a lot of people don't come. Yeah, a lot of people don't come because we don't know. Because sometimes you're not doing anything to foster this idea of welcomeness that you claim to have. Yeah, the
Mm-hmm.
door is open, but that doesn't mean that there's not some unwritten rule not to come in.
Mm-hmm. For sure. For sure. For sure. I agree with that. All right, so let me see. Next one. See, there's so much ego and corruption in the modern Sikhs. I've also noticed just how conservative the Sikh diaspora is. Racism is
Yes.
a real big problem among the Sikh community. I've noticed a lot of Sikhs think that by saying they're Sikh, it's enough, but they don't follow that Sikhi. I 1000%
Hello.
agree with that. Also, I just want to be clear. It's not a generational thing. It's not like like a lot of people seem to think like I've heard people say we just need to let the older folks die out, the older generations die out once they it's the older people who have an issue with it, and like younger people are used to being in community with no. If you look at our comments, if you look at like the nastiest comments, they're from young Sikhs. Like most of them are younger than me, it looks like, right? Like these are not from people of older generations. These are Gen Z and younger, millennials and younger.
A
So
lot of them are caught up. A lot of
no.
the younger ones are also caught up in the manosphere stuff too, though, because I found that an increasing amount of young male Sikhs are obsessed with Andrew Tate.
Oh God. That's a whole nother topic, and I don't even know where to start with that one because that's a mess. All right, so let's get to the next one. I finally figured out how to get to the safe section of this. So let me try to show my screen. Oh God.
Yep. Andrew Tateism. Yep.
That's very true. I don't know. Kimmy, maybe this is something you can help me out with. I am not 100% sure. Oh, I think I have to share my screen.
It looks like I said that at the same time that Judge said was typing it. Yeah, but it definitely is. I've seen it a lot in on X because I'm in a group with a lot of people there, and I've seen people that followed me initially, and I'm following them, and I'm like, they have some good perspectives, and then I see something come up out of the blue that's like super pro something that he said, and I'm like,
Yeah.
mm, is
Yeah.
do you think Tate's one of your gurus now? Like, what's going on here?
All right, let's see. Let me see if I can. Okay. So this one says, am I the asshole for not telling my boyfriend my actual religion?" Now, this one I thought was interesting because I think a lot of Christians don't think about this because again, there's this like privilege that comes with being a Christian in a what is essentially a Christian nation, even though it's maybe not official, it's still basically a Christian nation or whatever. So a lot of people don't think about this, but I know that like when I realize like, okay, I'm gonna have to tell my parents, my mom specifically, that I am no longer Christian. I was far more worried, nervous, anxious about needing to do that than I was like coming out as queer, like telling her or
Same.
telling anybody that I was queer. Like that, like that part, I had processed it. It was what it was, and even though I had like started to process like the religion thing, this was different. So I thought this one was interesting. So this one says, "Am I the asshole for not telling my boyfriend my actual religion?" Which maybe we can relate to this. I don't know. I 17 female and pagan, which a lot of people think is devil worship when it isn't. It really isn't. I've been pagan my whole life, and only my family and best friends know / don't care. My boyfriend, 17 male, and I met a very long time ago in first grade, and we've been best friends ever since. But recently, I've been wondering if I should tell him. He's extremely religious and Christian, which I have absolutely no problem with, yet I'm scared that if I tell him that he's going to stop talking to me. I feel like I'm not ready to tell him now, but at the same time, if I wait, what if when I do tell him in the future, he feels like I've been lying to him our whole lives and then he hates me? What should I do? What would y'all do about this?
Hold on. Now let me say this. If you don't y'all been talking and together since the first grade. If this person cares about you that much, if them have you having a different view as far as your faith goes is enough for them to leave, you need to let them go.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think it's this reminds me of like the disability issue, right? Where a lot of people on dating sites won't show that they're wheelchair users or won't show their disability or deformity or won't show full body pics in dating apps or won't mention it immediately or something like that. Like whatever it is. I get it. I do. And I also don't want to waste time, right? Because I don't want to be here like teaching somebody and like trying to I just don't like either you know you're cool with it or you're not, right? Like, and what's the point of like wasting my time? I don't want to try to convince you that I'm worthy or that I'm a human or that I'm, you know, like either you're with it or you're not. And so like why kind of waste time? And at the same time when it comes to religion, I get it, right? Like I get it in a way that I don't always get it with other things, right? Like whether it's like non-monogamy or whether it's queerness or something like that, right? Like when people have like really struggle, and I think it's because maybe I don't come from like a large family, right? Like I just be like it is what it is, you accept it or you don't. But like religion was the one thing where I was like nervous and anxious and like, oh god, I don't want you to think I'm like worshiping the devil or like, but yeah, I don't know, I get it. And I try to look at it from other angles, and I'm like, just tell them now, like tell them yesterday, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, what do y'all think?
For me, I think so. For me, I kind of before I struggled with that a little bit because I don't know. For me, it would just be hard. Like I'll mention maybe like once or whatever, but then like I wouldn't like how I wouldn't be how I would be outside of relationship wearing my turban often, um, or like I'll go to the Gurdwara, but it would be like I wouldn't mention it to them, you know. But now I'm in my like I've grown a lot from that, and like when I first meet somebody and we're talking and stuff like that, I tell them about my religion and this and that and the third, and if they're not with it, then they're not with it. Like now, like in my Tinder page, in my dating pages, I have me with my turban on a lot, you know, because I want that person to accept me for for me and like how I come to you, you know.
You ain't go out there for
A
nothing.
lot of people care. I think a lot of people care. I don't know. I don't know. It's certain people. It's certain people that really care and that can't get with it because they feel like their religion is going to conflict with your religion and dating and stuff like that. Um, so I mean, like I don't know. I had one girl before. I was just trying to like she said that we couldn't be together because our religions might conflict, and she just I don't know. I don't know. She was just saying like I kept on trying to tell her like we both believe in God. We believe in one God, but she was thinking like that my God is different and her God is different. And she was like, you know, if we get together, then you know I want somebody to go to church with me and stuff like that. And like
Oh, was she
I
Christian?
said, huh?
She was Christian.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
okay.
and she was just like, you know, like it's like almost like a sin if I went to the Gurdwara with you or whatever and stuff like that. Like I don't know. I kept on trying to tell her like I'm not about to force you to do nothing that you don't want to do. But one thing you're gonna do is respect me and my religion. You know, I respect you. I don't mind going to church, okay, but like I don't know, like I'm not a Christian, but I'll still go to church. You know, like as long as we worshiping God, maybe we can worship God together. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I don't know. I just like cut that off because I don't know.
Yeah,
Dexter.
I agree. I mean, I don't. First of all, I don't mind going to church. I mean, I guess it depends on the church, right? Like, if you really out there just preaching some wild stuff, I'm dipping. I'm not about to subject myself to no foolishness, but I don't mind going to church. Also, going to, I mean, maybe some pastors teach this, but that's not considered a sin. You know, like going to I also find it interesting because this sounds like this is a queer person. So you're more worried about going to a different faith, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're not worried about queer. I don't. That's just kind of strange to me. But
Well,
it, I mean,
I
One of
have
those,
heard that. I have heard
Really?
that.
Now I've heard the whole
Um,
thing about you needing to be like equally yoked, right? And that like you
yeah,
should only be
that's what
marrying
it's
within
tied
your
to.
faith. Yeah, you should only be marrying other Christians. Now that I've heard, right? But the idea that you can't even step foot in, or you can't even worship with, or which I hesitate to call it worship, like what we do, right? I really hesitate to call it worship, but that's probably the most equivalent word. So like the idea that you can't worship with a Sikh, or you can't even step foot in a Gurdwara or a temple or a like is wild to me. I don't know that I understand it,
It's
and it sounds like they're misunderstanding the whole
I
equally
think
yoked
it can
thing.
be tied a bit more too because I've seen it a lot more. So I wouldn't say that I see it frequently, but I've been in sermons here and there with some pastors that would say things like, they pretty much insult really, I guess you'd say deities or religious leaders of every other faith, in their attempt to say, that this is the one true way, and so they would insult these other things and pretty much say, no, you can't do this because, in some of their views, they're considering everything outside of this path is of the devil. So going in there is that being doing any of these things is of the devil, or it's of the world, and if it's of the world, then it's of the devil.
But also,
That's
also
rude, but it's also ignorant.
she was having like, one of those like those people that are in conflict with their religion and their sexuality.
Okay,
She was also in conflict with that too.
it's understandable.
Yeah, but I don't know. I was trying to explain to her like people like don't do something that you're gonna later on in life regret. Like when you like say if like I like women and then I'm telling myself that I'm straight because of my religion and that they don't allow it and they keep preaching over and over about how you gonna go to hell. So now I'm feeling guilty. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna go ahead and marry this man, knowing damn well that I don't love this man for real. I'm only doing
Yeah.
it because
It's given
of
what's her name? Jackie Hill, Jackie Perry, something like that. Where it is that black woman, she got locks, I can't remember her name, where she admits that she still has same sex attraction. She's not saying I'm straight now. She's saying,
Oh, I
oh,
know who
I
you're
still
talking
experience
about.
same sex attraction, but I am denying the
I know
flesh,
who you're
and I am
talking
now
about.
married to this man, and I have kids, and I am living the life of a straight woman. And every time, I think it's like Jackie Hill Perry or Jackie Perry, something like that.
Yeah,
And every
that's her
time I
name.
see it, I'm just like, girl, like I just feel so sorry for, like I feel so like I not in a judgmental way, just in a place where I'm like, damn, like that hurts. Like it hurts. Like we've warped religion, we've weaponized religion in such a way that like people are out here just living a life that
But
she
these
she, she
that's why,
can't
like I
she
said,
cannot possibly convince me that she's fully happy, that she's walking in her truth, that she's living the life that she would love to. She cannot. Like now maybe she's okay because like the fear of hell and damnation is making it so that this is better than happiness, but there's nothing that she can say to convince me that she's like fully happy, that she's just
well,
now like
you've
if
you
she was like I'm bi, that's different, but that's not what she's saying. That's not what she's
you've
saying.
convinced yourself, more or less, that you're making the necessary sacrifices and you're bearing your cross, so to speak. Because for the most part, because I've watched quite a few of her interviews, and it's not that she's indicating, even most of them in that movement aren't indicating that they're straight now. They're more or less just they're saying that they're saved in lieu of being gay. So they're
Yeah.
not. Most of them don't even aren't even identifying as straight.
Right. Yeah, they're not saying. I think it's interesting because they're very mindful to not claim to be straight. They will say things like, "I still experience same sex attraction, but I'm saved," or like something like that. Which, again, they're not. They're also not saying I'm bi. Is very different when you are bi and you can just go with compulsive heterosexuality and you're like, okay, fine, or bi or pan, right? It's different if you are also attracted to somebody of a different gender. But for those who are just you're not and you're just kind of going through the motions or you're forcing yourself, I do feel like a sense of like, damn, that hurts. Like I feel for you. But anyways, speaking of which, I think that's a perfect segue. We're gonna actually get here into the next story, which is
Yay.
about, oh man, when I tell y'all Kimmy be coming through like I can't even I can't even tell y'all. All right, so let's see. Am I the asshole for getting my nails done after my religious family said not to? Now, the reason that I thought this one was interesting is because I'm somebody who's like real big on self-expression, right? Like that's
Okay.
very, very important to me. Being able to express yourself the way that you want to, the way that you feel most comfortable, the way that feels most true to you, right? Okay, cool. So, and that's when I kind of skimmed it a little bit. I haven't read it, but when I skimmed it a little bit, it seemed like that's what this was talking about. So, I, 18, have a job and pay for my own things. Due to my family's beliefs, they have the tendency to shun me for being a homosexual and use their religion against me in arguments. 18 male. Okay, 18 male. Nails done. Okay, this makes more sense. Okay. They have a tendency to shun me for being homosexual and use their religion against me in arguments. They call me on the phone and tell me if I've gotten my nails done or have any sort of makeup on when I go to their house on Christmas for dinner, I will not be welcome there and I will be sent home. I believe that I deserve to express myself in any way that I feel. And sorry, guys, I can't see this without paragraph breaks. In any way that I feel and should not have to hide myself to please them. I had to explain to them that I do not have to follow the religious beliefs. I do not have to follow their religious beliefs because I am not myself and also deserve to be happy and not have my mental health suffer due to masking who I am. Wow, there's no punctuation in this. Good Lord. Okay. Masking who I am. I completely understand that they do not have to support me and what I want to do, but I would like to spend Christmas with my family. And I feel like they don't understand that there's already so much going on in the world that I feel like me getting my nails done or acting any sort of feminine is not the end of the world and that they should focus on bigger problems. Okay. We just lost someone in our family and they're still figuring out funeral arrangements. So I feel like they should focus on that compared to focusing on their grandchild who is paying for their own stuff to make them feel better about themselves. So I have to actually, okay. All right, so let's stop right there because I probably sounded a mess reading that because one, there's no paragraph breaks, and with my vision impairment, that was a struggle. And then there's no punctuation. Okay, so I think what I'm hearing is that there's an 18-year-old male, which is in the U.S. technically an adult. They have a job, they pay for their own things. They are queer, gay. It sounds like homosexual. They use that word. They get their nails done. They maybe present a little bit more feminine. I'm not 100% sure, but they just mentioned getting their nails done. And they want to spend Christmas with their family, right? But the family has these strong religious beliefs. So let me say, first of all, before my family came around, when I had a family member that first came out, when I had a niece that first came out, well, excuse me, before she came out. No, let me go back. She had come out to me, right? And I'm so grateful that the year before she came out to me, I had been studying and trying to learn up on trans things because I didn't know anything. And I remember saying something to somebody I was dating and being like, I don't understand this trans thing. Like, I'm a tomboy, but I don't want to be a different gender. And they were like, that's your experience. That's not everybody else's experience. Sounds like you're not trans. Like, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. That's me. I'm not. Okay, I get it. Right. And so that really kind of helped me to say, I need to go do some learning. I need to figure this out. Now, this was years ago. This was like 2013, maybe 2012, 2013, 2012 is when I started like being like, okay, I need to learn. I need to do some learning. And I studied for like a year. Anything I could get my hands on, Tumblr, research, data, anything I could get my hands on that related to the trans experience, I learned, right? At this time, had no idea whatsoever that I knew anybody personally who was trans. Then I get home, I moved back to California, and I'm talking to my niece and saying blah, 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 blah. And then I said something, and I can't remember exactly what I said, but it must have been enough to let her know that it was safe to tell me. And so she came out to me, right? And at that time, she had only come out to her mom. She had not yet come out to my parents, which is her grandparents, right? And so I was like, oh, and immediately I went, oh, holy shit, that makes so much sense, right? Now, like your entire childhood now makes more sense, right? You coming out, there was no, it just clicked for me like right away. And again, I think that has to do with the fact that like I watched her grow up from the time she was 1 year old. Like she was in a baby in a car seat sitting on our couch. I watched this child grow up. And so to now put her entire childhood into context as a little girl, right? It was like, oh my God, her whole life makes so much sense. So I immediately was like, all right, got you. But she still didn't want to come out to my parents yet, right? She was worried. My parents were not where they are now, right? She was worried. I'm saying all this to say, when she would come to our house, my parents' house, she would take off her nail polish. She would put on sweats because at the time she didn't have any masculine clothes anymore, right? She's already living her life as trans outside of our house. So she would just be wearing sweats, put the hair up in like this, like quote unquote man bun, like this bun, right? And then like take the nail polish off or whatever. And I remember her saying something, and my mom was like, "Yeah, don't bring that over here. You make sure you don't have nail polish on over here." And I went clean the fuck off. I went clean the fuck off. Now, right now, I'm trying to like sort of like defend her without making it worse, because you can make it worse, right? Like you have to be mindful of that, but with also without outing her. And I was like, "You don't sound like a Christian right now. Like you sound ridiculous." Like, right. And I just kind of like went off, and it took a long time. But I'm saying all that to say I understand. I understand like the feeling of, not me personally, right? Like, well, that's not true. I do understand sort of like wanting to present a certain way and your family telling you that's not right. Nope, that's not right. That's not right. And sort of giving you this pushback, right? I had my gender policed my entire life, right? I've been a tomboy my whole life. There's pictures of me as a kid. Like I just look a straight up tomboy. And that was policed my entire life. There was pushback and there was pushback. And it wasn't until I got to college where my gender was no longer policed that I sort of was able to tap into my femininity a little bit, right? And so when the same thing happened to my niece, I was like, no, we're not doing this again. We're not doing this again, right? Like you did that with me. I had a lot of healing to do. I had a lot of therapy to do. You're not doing the same thing with her. And so I sort of was able to be that buffer and be like, we're going to be fighting, I guess, but we're not doing this again. If you don't have that person and you're scared to lose your family and it's all because of their religious beliefs, now what do you do?
So yeah, I can definitely relate to that. It's a hard thing, I think, for me, because I'm a person that's legit like always about freedoms on all sides of everything for everyone. And as messed up, but like, so it's a two-parted thing. Sure, are the feelings and everything that the parents are putting forth are ugly and are ignorant, ugly, and not at all a way to treat a kid. And then at the same time, I look at it like, okay, well, if this is what if this is how they're feeling and they want to cling that heavily to that, then that for a message I would actually have to put out, I think, to a person experiencing that is, you don't have to take that. You don't. They can just, they decide that that's not what they want. Well, you don't have to take that either. Especially once you're adult, like the person said, you're paying your own way. You're able to make these decisions. If they, for whatever reason, they want to live in their ignorance and not allow you to just present, I guess, in the way that feels most authentic to you, then that's a them problem. That's not a you problem. Um, it's easier to say than done, though, because of course it hurts. Um, but I mean, I could even relate to what you mentioned earlier, because a similar thing happened to me. And the funny thing is, it's not even because I necessarily presented in any way that I would have really considered feminine as a kid, as much as I was a kid that was raised up by a different kind of man than I am. The men in my family, this isn't again anything against them, but the men in my family, I grew up in the hood, but the men in my family were of the hood. I my grandfather was a street dude. My stepfather was a street dude. I was not a street dude. And because of that, I was going to schools in the hood where everyone expected that as well. So my gender was policed too, because I didn't present as the same kind of man to them. Unfortunately, in our community, um, which is changing a lot, I feel like, in this younger generation. But in the generation that we came up in, anything that's different coming from a man is gay. Period. Anything.
Especially
It's
here in
gay.
the West. Especially here in the West, yeah.
Yep. Yep. And so everything that I did that was considered different was policed. And
Right.
so that I can relate to that, because I remember there was a point in time even where, because I wasn't that same kind of person, um, this is a little bit off, but it does still tie in, because I was into playing sports a little bit here and there. I was into football. There was a point in time because they didn't see me as the same kind of man. Where when I was playing on my football team, I remember my coaches telling us that, hey, make sure you lock up your gear and everything, because if something gets stolen and it's gone, then you're gonna have to pay for it. Well, I knew my family was struggling, and I knew that they couldn't afford it, and so I ended up quitting the team because of that. But ended up hearing my stepfather on the phone one time talking to someone and saying that I quit the team because I was too soft, never knowing that it was because at that age I knew way more about our finances than I should have. I also remember going over some friends that I was playing with regularly that he would take me to visit at one point because he thought I was too soft, where he told them to fight me, to get me to fight, to toughen me up. So I went over being a kid that already struggled making friends, and these kids that I thought were some of the first few friends I made one day decided to just jump on me for no reason. And that was traumatizing. And all of that was in an attempt to police my gender, which again, at this point, I get older and I'm surprised to come into, not surprisingly enough, in the military and meet a lot of other men that are like me. And so it's kind of like, no, y'all were wrong. Y'all were, you just didn't understand me.
So there's I've seen several documentaries. There's some research out there, because there are a lot of trans folks in the military, and a lot of people are surprised by that. But it doesn't surprise me when I hear about why, right? And I'm not saying like this is the situation for you, but I'm saying
Mhm.
that God, I wish I had the name of the documentary. But there's several documentaries where trans folks talk about this, and they talk about the fact that um, they were running from their gender. They were running from who they are, whether there's their gender presentation. They were running from their true selves so much, or they were trying to run towards this ideal, right? This very specific ideal of what they are supposed to be based on their gender, based on their sex, right? Based on what they've been raised to believe. And, they figure, especially for trans women, right, who are raised as men or raised masculine or whatever, they run towards the thing that they think is most masculine, the thing that's going to toughen them up, the thing that's going to like set them straight, like gonna, if anything is going to get rid of this, like if prayer didn't work, this has got to be the thing that works. Like this is the most quote unquote masculine thing that I can do, and that's been a lot of their stories. So it doesn't surprise me to like hear that there are a number of queer folks in the military, whether they are trans or gay or bi or whatever. It doesn't surprise me when you really think about it. And like, I'm somebody who did that to my nephews, right? Who thought I was like toughening them up, like you got to be ready, like because I'm a tomboy, and like and I it's something I had to apologize for sure, right? Like even though I was doing like what I was sort of taught and like what I thought was right and was doing it for reasons that I thought were right, it was not right, right? Like it was not healthy, it was not the right thing to do, and so that's something that I've had to apologize for. And so I completely understand that. Now, I always struggle with this, and I always like hesitate to give advice to people like this because again, like I think it's like a nature of growing up in the West, but also growing up without a large family. Like I'll peace out on you so fast. Like,
Yep.
being
We get to choose
around
our family.
family, yeah, like being around family just because they share my DNA or just because I grew up with them or just because I have been around them for a long time or what, that's not more important to me than my sanity, than my happiness, than my health. Like it just isn't. Like first of all, my family, they don't even know me that well, right? Like especially extended relatives. They don't really know me that well. So I'm not like dying to be around them. So if you don't know how to act, if you don't know how to treat me right, like you can go or I can go. Like I don't have to be around you. So I always hesitate because I don't want to be the person that's like, leave your family, tell them bye, like cut them off, go no contact, because that might not be the right thing for every person, right? I know when it's the right thing for me, but it might not be the right thing for every person. So I always say like they have to decide, right? Like if you're struggling, and that's anything, right? Like that's not just like about like queerness. That's like about who you are. Like if you got somebody who you want to date and your family is like, nah, we don't think that's a good idea, whether it's a caste issue, right? Like I've heard issues with that, right? Like you want to date somebody or marry somebody of a different
I've
caste,
seen
they
a
got a
lot of
problem with
that.
that.
Yep.
You want to date or marry somebody of a different race, they got a problem with that. You want to date or the person already has kids, or they're a divorce, or you got to decide for yourself, because at the end of
It's
the
your life
day,
to live.
it's your life. Now, I do also love the idea that like when marriage is between two families, it's not just two individuals, because again, I think that's a very Western versus Eastern, like, ideals. But you still have to decide your life for yourself, because you're the only person that can live it. Even if you do bring two families together, you still have to live your life. Nobody else can live your life for you. If you're miserable, if you're, you end up to a point where you're so depressed, you're suicidal, they can't help you. If you're in pain, like emotionally, psychologically, nobody else can carry that pain for you. You're the only person that can do that. You're the only person that can live your life. And this is why I tell people like who swear suicide is selfish, is like, that's real easy for you to say when you're not the person who has to live with the pain. You're not the person who has to live a life in pain. And if somebody is in so much pain that they feel like it's better to peace out, I can only imagine the amount of pain that they must be in. So who am I to be like, oh, it's selfish for you to dip? No, it's selfish for you to call them selfish, right? Like, and so from something like deleting yourself to marrying a certain person to presenting yourself how you want to, you got to decide what's right for you. Maybe it's okay. Maybe it's not a big enough deal for you to dress more masculine in front of your family for this one night. Maybe it's okay. Maybe you don't mind. But is this going to lead to other things? Is this going to mean, I don't know. I think that's my like conclusion. You gotta decide for yourself. All right. Any final thoughts on that? We're going to.
I just want to say I agree with what they just said. Um, Also, like I had like struggles like that too, coming from very Christian family on my dad's side, and to my grandpa being a pastor and stuff, and them telling me I need to wear dresses to church. Oh, like why you walking around here with um cut sleeves and stuff and all that, to oh, why you want to play football? That's a boy sport and stuff like that, you know. For me, I just eventually, I just like, I used to just be so depressed about like at this the stuff they used to just tell me, because it was very hurtful for me, especially coming from your family and stuff like that. Honestly, I just started to not give a fuck. I just started to not give a fuck, and I came to the conclusion that I need to live my life, because at the end of the day, I can only make decisions for myself. You know, I'm gonna grow up. I'm gonna go ahead and do so many things in life that don't involve them. You know, so
Yeah,
just you just gotta do what you gotta do. You know what I'm saying? I
for
still
sure.
do whatever I want to do. I come around them and they have something slick to say. You know, I don't even try. I don't even try to fight them back. I don't say nothing at
You
all.
know, my thing is like, is your family prioritizing your happiness and your well-being, right? The same way you're prioritizing theirs, right? Because to me, if you're prioritizing my happiness and my well-being, or if you care about it at all, like, do you not want me to be happy? Do you not want me to be, you know what I'm saying? Like, because these decisions, this don't come here like this, don't do this, that seems like that's about you. It seems like it's about your ego. You're worried about maybe what other people think, about how uncomfortable it makes you. What about your child? Like, you know what I'm saying? I remember like Marlon Wayne said that recently, and like he's learning and he's trying to figure it out, because now he has like a trans son or whatever. And he's like, at the end of the day, I want my kids to be free. I want them to feel free. I want them to be happy. And so whatever needs to happen for them to be happy and for them to feel free, that's what I want. That to me is the type of parent that should have kids, not people who are like, I want kids, but I need the kids to be exactly how I want them to be. Like, I always say, like, my mom always said, like, she only wanted one kid and she wanted a daughter. And I always say, well, she kind of got that, right? Because even though she got a daughter, she couldn't have foreseen that she was going to get a tomboy, or that she was going to get one that's completely the opposite of her, because she's like super feminine, like high femme, and like really into fashion, and like, and she couldn't have foreseen that. And like, that's something that you have to foresee when you become a parent. Like, you have to realize that your kids are not you. They are not an extension of you. They are their own separate individuals, right? And you have to be okay with that. You have to be prepared for that. You don't know how they're going to turn up. So
Way too many of them actually want to live through their children, and that's a huge problem.
yeah, I agree 100%. I think This might be a controversial take, but I think having kids is one of the most selfish things you could do. I'm not saying you should not do it. I'm just saying you're bringing a whole other human here who can't ask to be here, who can't consent to it. So you're just making that decision, and you're not doing it for them. You are actually doing it for you. You are doing it because you want to be a parent, because you want to carry on your legacy, because you want to raise kids, you want to feel maternal or be a mother. And that's, I am not saying that those are inherently bad things, but they are inherently selfish, and selfish is not inherently bad, right? So you got to decide.
You just made me
What that's
laugh
gonna look
thinking
like for
about
you.
something when you mentioned the legacy, because sometimes I hear people that'll say things too, especially a lot of guys I hear sometimes like, well, what are you going to do? Somebody got to carry on your legacy. And I'm sitting there like, what legacy? You ain't
What
got
that's
nothing.
that's always my
Like,
response.
you don't
Girl, what
have
legacy?
anything.
What legacy? What you didn't do nothing. Having a kid is not a legacy. That guarantees nothing. Like, it's just wild. And let me not get started on the fact that, like, I think surnames should be passed down maternally anyways, but whatever. All right, so we are already at 6:15. So let's do this. I do want to cover, especially since we have Nique here, I want to cover the thing. And I should have said this to Kimmy. Let me see if I have this screenshot, because I kind of, is it okay if we share it, Nique, the screenshot? The all right, bet. Let me see if I can find it, because this was wild. Like, I was like, so when when Nique sent it, I was like laying down, right? I was like, really wasn't feeling that well, so I was like kind of laying down or whatever. And then I sent it and I started reading it, and I just like started sitting up. I was like, the fuck, right? Like, this is, just wait till y'all see this. Oh man, I hope now what if I can't find it?
Yeah, I can resend it to you.
Oh wait, it's right here. It's a couple screenshots, right? It's these.
Yeah.
All right, let me see if I can.
I remember when I sent it to you. I all those paragraphs like, oh fuck no, like da 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 da. I already knew.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm sending them to Kimmy, and she'll probably get them on the screen in a second. But I'm gonna just start reading them, because they're wild. I don't.
Wait, it was more than one?
Yeah, it's a whole conversation. It's a whole conversation. They started off, and this is how I knew, and I couldn't wait. Like, I sort of saw some of this stuff coming, right? But they said hi with like 3 eyes, whatever. Hi, and then the next message was bro, right? And then Nique just said, hey, what's up? And they responded, you're sick. No punctuation, so I don't know if that's a question or a statement, but Nique says yes. And then they said, really? Now, my sarcastic ass would have been like, nah, just kidding. I'm lying. My whole persona is a lie. I'm lying. Like, yeah, I just
love giving stupid answers, and I will get out there with the stupid answers.
Because, like, I've had people do that when it comes to like my chronic illness, right? Like, I tell them like where the pain is, or I tell them, and they're like, oh, are you sure? Because you seem fine. Are you sure? No, I'm lying. That's no. I changed my mind. Just kidding, right? So they said, really? And then they said, what is the name of the first guru in Sikhism? Now, I think I'm pissed because of the question. Like, it's like I've been like quizzed before, right? Or like I've had people like try to attempt to quiz me, because I don't ever like feed into that, right? But I've had people try me like that, but never with a question so simple and so basic. Like that to me is the most disrespectful part. What is the name of the first guru in Sikhism? Sikhism, first of all, Sikhism. Okay, let's ignore this. Let's ignore the Sikhism part. Let's ignore that they didn't use Sikhi and they said Sikhism. That's fine. That's fine. What is the name of the first guru? As though I can't Google that, as though it's not easily and readily available. How dare you? It reminds me of the studies that show that teachers who have the lowest expectation of Black students are white women, are white female teachers, and teachers who have the highest expectation of Black students are Black women teachers, right? None of that surprises me. My lived
definitely held to a higher standard by Black female teachers.
Absolutely. My lived experience tells me that all day long, like both as a student and as a teacher, right? Like, you have the white women who have the lowest expectations of our Black students, right? They expect so little. And that's what that reminded me of. I think that's why I was like so like irritated by it, right? Like Nick wasn't really tripping. Nick was like, look at this foolishness, right? And I was like, man, like I was ready to go off, right? Because I'm just like, first of all, don't try her like that. Like, you know, if she says she's sick, that's what she said. Don't come in here trying to quiz her and trying to test her and trying to see if she lied. Like, it seems like you're trying to catch her in a lie. And then you're gonna give me this very basic question, like, what is the first good? Really? All right, cool. And then she was still nice about it, right? She was still like, all right, I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt. Good or none, right? And then he goes, oh, do you know Punjabi language? No, but I want to learn. Okay, bro. Long hair and beard in Sikhism. So right then and there, now I knew from the fact that he had been calling her bro that he assumed that she was a guy, right? Like I knew that off top. So I was very interested to see how this was gonna go. And then she said, I'm not a boy, so I don't have a beard, right? And then let me see the next part. Let me see. Yeah, I'm not a boy, so I don't have it. Okay, you're a girl. Oh, really? Sorry, it's a mistake. She said it's okay. I don't know. I'm thinking he's saying, are you come to India and Punjab? Like, if you're coming to Punjab? And then she says, like, I will one day. And he says, okay, good. The rest, I'm not even gonna worry about too much of the rest, right? But my thing was just like, I just really wanted y'all to see this because this is not uncommon, right? Like this is sort of like, and again, I've never had it go this far because I don't ever respond. Like I just respond to like people will say, can we have a conversation? Or what's the, you know, I've never had that basic of a question, but it's been like, you know, something where they're clearly trying to test me. And I'm like, we're not doing that. Because why do you need to know? Like we can have a conversation about SIKH. That's not the issue. But we can't have a conversation in which you think that you're trying to make sure that I know what you think that I should know, right? Or that I'm actually legit or that I'm valid. You're not going to sit here and try to invalidate my SIKH or like who I am as a SIKH. Like
I surprisingly had anyone do that to me.
I wonder if it's because you're a man.
Maybe. It's possible. But it has not happened once.
It makes me wonder if it's happened to Sorma.
Even in instances where they could tell that I was relatively new, I've had nothing but people coming just curious about journey in general, like not asking questions about SIKH, but just asking me about my experience. And then from there, they're always offering hey, you should check this out, or you should come here one day. I would love to connect you with this, or like I've never received that kind of response. So it is possible that it's because I'm a man.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if Sorma's had it. Now I went ahead after that and I asked other non-Punjabi but non-Black Sikhs if any of it has happened to them. So I went and messaged a few of them and they were like, oh well, yeah, I get people trying to like, they've had several sort of similar experiences, but never anybody on this basic of a level trying to quiz them or like invalidate them or insinuate that they don't know what they're talking about, right? Never had that. So, and again, I'm not saying it's never happened. It's just from what I know. So Nique, I want to ask you though, because I know like you said in the group chat, but like when you first got that message, what were you thinking? Like when they first messaged you, just walk us through the process. Like walk us through like what happened. Like what made you decide like, okay, let me, because I remember you said you like, I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt, maybe they're being genuine, whatever. Just tell me how, like what you were thinking and how you were feeling.
So, I was kind of like, I don't know, like after he asked me who was the first guru, I was just like, Guru Nanak, like, like just like, why are you questioning me? It's like, but I was just, I don't know, I was just answering the questions. I was just very like, I don't know, I didn't think too much of it. I guess I was just very like, why are you asking these questions? But I'll answer them type.
Right. Has it happened to you before?
No, not that I could think of. But I kind of really thought he was being genuine. And then I went back and saw that he blocked me. So I was just like, maybe he wasn't. That's why that picture is white on the screenshot. He blocked me. So I don't know. I just like, all right, that's cool. I've had like
the audacity.
Yeah, I've had like Like for
I had to
instance,
go. Yeah, okay. Kimmy just put it up, but I had to go see like the last message. I was trying to see like if you said something to him to make him, you know what I'm saying? Like, but there's nothing there. Like he just, okay, all right, okay. I didn't know he blocked you. All right, bet.
yeah, I think he followed me from the post that you post probably. He got my. I had a lot of people added me, so I was just accepting them and stuff like that. So
Oh, so he probably watches. Okay, whoever you are, dude, you bugging.
yeah, so
Interesting.
yeah, I mean, I had like people question me before, like uh my local Gurdwara in New Orleans. You know, when the first couple times I went there, or whatever. I
Wait,
had
now where is the Gurdwara in New Orleans? I've never been to that one.
It's in the east. It's in the east.
What part? Like where at?
So if you know
You don't gotta tell.
Canal,
You don't gotta tell me right now. I mean, ain't nobody watching this gonna know. I was just
yeah,
curious, but okay. But I didn't know it was one in the east. All right, but
yeah, I'll text you or whatever. But
okay.
the one in the east, I went there a couple times, and I think the first two times I went there, they just had like they just had men just looking at me. You know what I'm saying? Like
Hmm.
they had I was sitting down somewhere. I was sitting down on the bench, taking off my shoes or something. They had like some other people next to me, and they were all talking, blah blah blah, this and that. And then I had this one guy that was just he was just staring at me. I'm just like, you need something, like fuck, like and as I was in the group, he was looking, I guess, to see if I was stealing or something like that. And then I had I think two of them come up to me. They asked me where I was from, if I was from Africa or whatever and stuff. And I was just like, nah, I'm from here,
Africa.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
real random.
yeah,
And this was in New Orleans, and they was asking if you were from Africa.
yeah, yeah.
I will say, I mean, to a certain degree, to be quite honest, a lot of the times they are a lot more used to seeing, if they do see someone of a black person. I think a lot of times they are used to them likely being African, because I
In
believe
the
I've
U.S.
seen there's
though,
yeah, I believe there's a lot more of
because in
them.
India I understand that, right? Because like all the other black people that I met, while I was in India, they were all African, right? Like so, and I do know that like the largest population of Black Sikhs uh is in Kenya, right? So I get that, but like I didn't know that would have. I'm
I
a
had
little
a hard
surprised they assumed that while we were in the U.S., especially New Orleans. That's a place that's very, very black. Kind of
Yeah,
odd.
yeah. I also had that happen in Escondido. Escondido, that had this one lady who was just genuine. She was just genuine asking if I was African or like Nigerian. She thought I was Nigerian. I was
I
like,
get
Mm.
no,
Ghanaian.
not.
A lot of people think I'm Ghanaian.
Hmm.
Yeah, I
All
don't know
right.
why she thought that though. But that's the most as far as I got asked questions like that, or like how did I get into Sikhism and stuff like that. But that's about it.
Okay. All right. So we got deep here.
Hey
Now
everyone.
I don't know. Did you hear the about the screenshot that we just were talking about?
Yes, I
Because I
joined in
wanted to
for the
get your
foolishness
okay.
of
Because I wanted to
that,
get your take on that.
and then I had to reload, so I popped back in where Nique was talking about New Orleans, and there is this kind of subtlety of, yes, there is a large Sikh diaspora and there is a large Sikh community in Kenya, so I kind of get that. But anyway, I think, assumptions make an ass out of you and me. So I think that that's also part of what's at play. When I was reading the screenshots, I couldn't help but feel like the most SIKH response is comes from Japji, and it's Guru Nanak Dev Ji saying, if someone should presume to know the will of God, then he is a fool of a fool. Gavara Gavar. And so I think that these people who feel somehow empowered to police others and who don't recognize their own patriarchy, because we were talking about both um Ray says that he hasn't been questioned versus you both as women have been questioned, so that there is a lot of patriarchy at play, and there's a lot of the thought patterns of colonialism also at play in terms of like policing. And it goes in line with like pretending to know the will of God and thinking that you are the supreme one, or like that you are like the authority or the voice of God. And, Sikhi's pretty clear about them being foolish. And I think that that's what we're seeing here.
Yeah, I completely agree. And part of the reason that I agree is because some of them have gone so far and been so bold as to say that, right? Like we've had some people who have left comments and said Guru Nanak doesn't love queers, or because Sorma has a beautiful clip on I think it's on TikTok and Instagram about the fact that like why so many like marginalized people end up being attracted to Sikh, right? And right. It has to do with Guru Nanak being like a friend of the friend list, and being in company with and in space and advocating for, for lack of better words, for the most marginalized and for the most vulnerable of society, right? Even back then. And so it would make sense that the message of Guru Nanak would resonate so deeply with people who are marginalized, who are in vulnerable spaces, right? And that includes queer folks. And so to have people come and proclaim to speak for Guru Nanak and speak for God, right, is wild to me. It's like it's the type of, like, when I say that sometimes we get comments that like they don't faze me because it's like they're so ridiculous. It's like, okay, that's not a me thing, that's a you thing. Those are the type of comments where it's like Guru Nanak doesn't love queers are not loved by Guru Nanak. Like, what are you saying? Like, like it's one thing to try to like have a conversation about Sikhi not supporting queer. That's one thing, but to flat out say like, because at least most people who try to have that take will say like Guru Nanak loves queer, we just don't like the queerness. The queerness is it just doesn't align with Sikhi. Like they will at least try to play those mental gymnastics, but to come right out and be like Guru, I was like, don't speak on Guru Nanak like that. Don't do that. Don't do that. For you to proclaim that you know God and you know God's will, and yeah, I love the way that you said that, Deep. Were you saying?
And also, I mean, I would also say that the Hijra community has existed in India, which is like a trans community, for millennia, and the gurus had nothing negative to say about it. Now, I don't know. I don't think that they stuttered when they said the oneness of creation, believe in the oneness of the human race, and make love your way in the world. I don't think that they stuttered, but apparently there's enough space for people to kind of get in there and bring about this kind of sense of othering of marginalized communities, which is very anti-Sikh. And I wish that mainstream Sikhism was more vocal, was more in line with the Bani of standing up for marginalized communities, of recognizing the divine in all people. I think that that would be us living out our faith and our values better. And I'm going to check out that link you said that Sorma has on his Instagram. I want to see what he said, because
it's on the Black and Sikh. It's on the Black and Sikh page. But yeah, he speaks to he's reacting to the interview I did with Cat Black, but it's a wonderful clip because he speaks to, again, Guru Nanak being a friend of the friendless and like really speaking to marginalized communities, and why so many, because a lot of people will ask like, why are queer people, why are trans people, why are Black, Asian, whatever people drawn to Sikhi, why have so many been joining and converting lately? And I think he gives a wonderful answer, because he says like the real question is like, do you know your gurus? Like, do you really understand Sikhi the way you think you do? Do you understand and do you know your gurus the way you think you do? Because I don't know that you would be asking that question if you did. And I mean, he doesn't say that, but that's like my take. Cause like, I don't know that you'd be because if you did, without us ever having that conversation, he very much describes and speaks to why Sikhi spoke to me. And so I think it's a beautiful response. But yeah, it is on our Instagram page. It's on our TikTok as well. So we're gonna read a few questions and then get out of here. Does anybody else have any like thoughts about that?
Well, I'll throw something in that Guru Harkrishan was a child guru, and so people automatically say like all the gurus were straight. Well, Guru Harkrishan was a child. I don't think that we're like sexualizing children or, projecting our own view of whatever his sexuality was or would have become, right?
Mhm.
And when I think about the history of Sikhi and the incredible loss at the time of Guru Harkrishan passing, because he was actually taking care of those who were ill and he contracted that illness as well. And so, that was an enormous loss for the community. But at the same time, it kind of puts us in a space of not knowing what would have been. And people who speak so assuredly on, all the gurus were X, Y, and Z, don't really take the full history into account. And I think that that's just enough, like sufficient doubt to plant a seed in someone's mind of not being so sure about what they think they know.
Yeah, for sure. Ray, there's a couple things I want to say, but Ray, did you want to uh speak on that a little bit? Oh, he might be frozen actually. Oh no, there
Mine
you
was
go.
quick.
Okay.
Yeah, mine was quick. It was kind of still tied into what y'all said. It's and reiterating on what I said earlier, though. I think the fear is rather than taking it in that direction, you have so many of the youth because they are, and this is across the board, but they are looking for something. So then I think you get some of the specifically maybe some younger Punjabi Sikhs, younger from, like I said, from what I've seen on X, that are looking to, we see these images of warriors and fighting back and things like that, and they're attaching that to, and it's very easily that a lot of them are getting sucked up into, like I said earlier, that manosphere, and so then they're utilizing that and a lot of times echoing some of the same rhetoric coming out of there. Because I promise you, almost every time I can run into one of those people that have that kind of mindset, they're almost tied. They're tied to that manosphere. They're following these people, following your Andrew Tates, your Sneakos, all the other people.
Yeah, and you can usually tell because they have a hard time having a deeper conversation about it. Like, right, they have a hard time like elaborating beyond the talking points. Like they will be able to say the 1-2 quips, right? And then if you try to go deeper, if you try to press and go why, then they either will get upset, or what happens when like men start catcalling, and then you turn them down, and it's very much that. So and that's how you can usually tell, right? And I will say this, yeah. So I didn't even address that. That was something that came up in our Black and Sick group chat. Yeah, I agree. Not one of them have an original thought. I wholeheartedly agree. That was something that came up in the group chat, right? And that's something that has been DM messaged to me. I should have taken screenshots of that, where it was like somebody who follows the page and was like, you can usually tell when they're like, I'm trying to be respectful. I want to be this, and but I gotta admit, I don't agree with LGBTQ and First of all, it's nothing that you can agree with. There's nothing to agree or disagree. We exist. That's that. And then there was like all of the gurus were straight. So I don't understand how LGBTQ aligns with SIKH. I said, what does that have to do with anything? Like, let's like take away the fact that you don't actually 100% know that, right? Like, we cannot be 1,000% sure about that, right? But like, if that is the case, what does it have to do with anything? I said none of the gurus were African. Does that mean we shouldn't have any Black Sikhs? And then it was like, oh, that's a good point. Okay, I wasn't thinking about that. Like, yeah, your logic isn't logicking. It doesn't make sense, right? And that's also something that came up. Like,
none of the gurus were women, so there should be no women in Sikh.
I said that too.
I mean, like,
I said that too. I said none of the.
I said all is that.
Yeah, I said all the gurus were men. What does that say about women Sikhs? You right? And that's when the like it started crumbling. And I was like, and like I said, it's pretty easy for these things to crumble because again, they just have these very surface level talking points.
It's a projection of Abrahamic thought. In the
Absolutely.
Abrahamic religions, they say that, we have to emulate and be what our teacher was. We have to, whatever the path is, they have to be that saint. And I think in Sikh, we're not bound to be that.
I was just about to say that.
These are our wisdom traditions, and we have so much wisdom to draw from. And these are values and principles that we get to wrestle with, interpret with. In the last live, we were talking about how Japji asks us questions, and
Mhm.
like in certain things, like they just don't want to be questioned. You know, all of
Mhm.
this surface level thinking is not about really questioning, and it's just like it shows that they're not intellectually serious about engaging with the
Mhm.
beauty of SIKH and the depth of the of the philosophy here.
Absolutely. That 1,000%, 1,000%. I think
Agreed.
because I think it's interesting that this idea that we need to be exactly as the gurus were, which I don't think one that Sikhi calls for that. Two, I think if anything, Sikhi I wouldn't say calls for the opposite of that, but there is very much not an acceptance of difference, right? There is this like promotion of like we accept these differences, right? Because, and again, I don't think that they understand like the emphasis on equality requires the acknowledgement that there is difference, right? Like if things were all the same, if there was really a call for everybody to be exactly the same or to be exactly like the gurus, then there would be no really emphasis on equality, right? Because everything would be the same. But the emphasis on equality really to me speaks to the fact that like um there is an acknowledgement that things are different, that it's okay for things to be different, and that not only is it okay, but that like there's beauty in that difference, right? And so a lot of these like and I think also the really being against or I don't know what the right word is, but like not being here for like the rituals for the sake of rituals. Like I talked about that last time too, right? Like as opposed to just doing things just because you should be doing them, but there's really no maybe meaning or feeling or thought or intent or purpose behind them. All of that to me speaks to not only like this acceptance of difference, but also being able to practice Sikhi in a way that works for you, in a way that works for your relationship with the divine, with Guru, and that is going to get you to where you need to go, right? And so I just think it's interesting, and I think it's also interesting that I don't know I don't know if this is like a conveniently left out. Is this a conveniently not taught story? But we don't have a lot of time right now, so maybe we'll talk about this the next time. But the fact that the guru never said you talked about the Hydra community, right? And that there was, I think they like to latch onto the fact that maybe Guru never said the word queer, right? Guru never said specifically when he was listing these things, and none of the gurus like said that word. So it must mean that we're not including them too, right? Which is foolish. We know that, right? Because we know that queer people existed even then. And the gurus would have been aware of that even then. And there are stories that at least one of the gurus was aware of that even then and did not tell this person who is and I keep saying like I'm gonna like find the story so that because I don't ever tell it correctly, but like or I don't ever tell it that well, I should say. But the guru being aware of their queerness and the fact that they were looking for a husband and says like, hey, these surface level things are not how you're going to attract your husband, right? And so there's no condemning this man for looking for a husband. There's a condemning of the process that this man is using to find a husband, to try to attract a husband, right? And so I think to me, if anything is clear, that Guru was not only okay but accepting of and included queer people in this list of all things that should be equal. I think that is a prime story, and I'm not sure why more people don't know that, because I do know that anytime I tell it, most people either will just like stop talking, or like nobody ever like really pushes back once they hear that story, which I think is interesting. I kind of wonder why that is, but
someone just put it in the information there. I believe that might be that may be what you're
Yeah.
referring to.
Yeah, in the
yes,
comments here.
yes. It's yeah, Kimmy, just leave that up on the screen for a minute. I think hopefully folks on Instagram can see that. Yes, that's that. So if you guys want to like Google that, look into that. Absolutely. I'm going to read some of the comments that we missed during the live, and then we'll get out of here. Honestly, people will weaponize religion for the weirdest things. Who cares what they're doing with their nails or what they wear and makeup? Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's so silly. Like when we talk about social constructs such as gender and gender presentation and how it's changed so much, it is just it's to me it's sometimes a tough conversation to have, because it's just, that when people are doing those things or really very rigid on those things, that they are lacking like knowledge. They are lacking in understanding that this is a social construct that is ever changing, and that 50 years from now it's going to look very different than it does now, just like it looked different 50 years ago, right? We had I think it's interesting that an artist like Prince, people, I wonder why nobody really ever questioned Prince's sexual, or maybe they did. I wasn't like alive at that time, but right, but like I know people,
They didn't.
I didn't think so. Like I've never heard anybody question Prince's sexuality, and yet Prince is very, very, in terms of like presentation and like gender presentation, especially as a Jehovah's Witness, like it was very like flamboyant and very different. And like it's just interesting, like how people will really hold on to these social constructs that are so temporary and
Most
so
of the men
fragile.
at that time, where you can look back and see the Isley brothers too,
It's
were dressed
very
a lot
much of the
like that.
time. Crop tops, tight pants, like shirts right up under the titties. You know, like it's so flimsy. It's so like temporary, and it's just wild. Anyway, masculine and feminine are both present. This is Parmjeet Singh. Sparks says this again. Masculine and feminine are both present in everyone in varying degrees, and what's considered masculine or feminine is subject to individual perspective. Beautiful. I 100% agree. Not only are like masculine, I think I said this too, right? When I finally got to college, I went like 3,000 miles away, and I was in college in New Orleans, away from the Bay Area, and my gender wasn't policed in the same way. That's really when I felt most comfortable being myself and like tapping into my feminine. It was always there, right? But I no longer felt like I had to protect the masculine side of me because people kept trying to like push it out. I 100% agree. I think it's present in everybody. It's just a matter of like, how in touch with it you are, and if it's being policed, and if you're allowed to tap into it and whatever. Kimmy Locker says for sure. What's considered masculine or feminine is also subject to the society or culture in which people are raised. 1,000% agree.
Yep.
Let's see. Duckin SIKH, or otherwise known as Kenyans. Oh, okay, yeah, Kenyan SIKH, but that's still a very weird jump to make. Yeah, I agree. I don't know why they would have thought that she was African, but I don't know. To me, this is the thing. This is the thing. To me, I could be totally wrong, but to me, that goes back to the assumptions, the view that people have of Black Americans. Right? Like even when I went to India and they find out they see I'm Black, right? And then they find out I'm from America, they're just like mind blown. They're like, wait, what? Because they have a very specific view of Black Americans. And it usually has to do with us being uncultured, not having a culture. Why would you know about SIKH? If anybody's gonna know about SIKH, it's gonna be an African over a Black American, right? Even though they're right there in New Orleans. And I don't know if y'all know, but New Orleans is a very, very Black city. So the fact that they went from seeing Nique to going to African is like, to me, it's because their perception of Black American didn't allow for them to even consider that she could have been a Black American, right? It's just kind of wild to me.
You expressed that perfectly, because that's where my mind was, but I didn't know how to communicate at the time. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I was so like flabbergasted. I was like, why would they think that? And the more I thought about it, and I was just like, I was trying to like make excuses for like why they would think that, but I can't. Like it would be different. Again, it would be different if they were in a city that was like very white or like very, you know what I'm saying? But like you're in New Orleans and you went from zero to Africa. Like you just skipped New Orleans. Like how is it like not? Anyways, every one of the gurus was a revolutionary that stood against oppression. All SIKH should be activists. I 1,000% agreed. I don't know. I think it's still up. I think it's on the it might be on the one that's like a flyer about Palestine. I think that's the one it's on. There's a SIKH on there who says that SIKH should be neutral, that SIKH should never take a side, that SIKH should not be on anyone. And I couldn't even engage in the I couldn't even engage in the conversation because I was like, you're trolling. You got to be trolling. You either don't know anything about SIKH. Something I didn't even know like where to start. Like I tried to be like, I didn't even know. So I kind of like some other people kind of like responded, but I was just like, this is wild. Like I've never heard somebody say that. Like it'd be one thing if he was like, no, we should be on the side of Israel, or we should be, but he didn't say. He was like, we should be neutral. And I just, if anybody doesn't know, neutrality is you're siding with the side of oppressor. That's just period. That you're not.
To that point, though, what blows my mind is, and this is something that I've known since I was a kid, before I actually even knew what a SIKH was. Forever, we've known, even in the neighborhoods I grew up in, even if I didn't know what to call it, we'd always been taught, and I think this is something that I can't remember which book I read that this was in, but even the hood, we were always taught if you were in trouble or there was something going on and you needed some help, you can go to the guy with the turban and the beard. I was told that in the hood. I didn't know what a Sikh was, but we were always told that. So that being said, even coming up a little bit further, when it's come to some of the movements that have happened out there, protests and stuff like that, Sikhs have been there. And I'm talking about as it relates to Black rights, as it relates to LGBT rights, they've been to these places. So you know that it's your duty to be there and stand up for these people. But then the moment that your kindness, everything, your activism, everything else that you're doing inspires people, and those people become interested and want to become a part, then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, but you can't be a Sikh though. Does that make sense?
It does not. It does not. I don't understand it. Not even one bit. And that's why I said I didn't even know where to start with that. Like I didn't know. But yeah, I agree with that. All Sikhs should be I don't like bare minimum. I don't. And I'm gonna be real, like, you know, call me naive, whatever you want, but like that's very much like how I thought it was gonna be. I was like, oh, I found my people. Like all the Sikhs are gonna be, you know, they'll be advocates, activists. They're gonna be here. They're gonna be at least on the right side of history. Child, I've been thinking about it over the last few days, but I still think I've experienced more anti-blackness from South Asians, from Punjabi Sikhs than I have from white people in my whole life. So somebody else, that makes zero sense. One of the main tenets of Sikhi is the fight against oppression. Wherever you see it, it's their right. Yeah, it's right there in the word Kirpan. I agree. That's why I didn't even like. How do you respond to that, to somebody who's already a Sikh? It would be different if like he wasn't a Sikh, right? But he's saying that Sikhi says this, and it's like it literally does not. It literally says the opposite. So you're trolling, or I don't know, child. Anyways, let me see. Is there any let me see if there's any comments that we missed. But the troll asked about going to India or Punjab, but didn't mention Sri or any specific. Oh, no. So I stopped reading because I was like, where is this going? Is visiting Punjab generally considered a significant religious pilgrimage? Not that I know. I mean, like I've always been like, oh, I would love to go to the Golden Temple one day, right? But like I've never. I don't know. Can somebody else speak to that if you know anything about that?
Oh, I believe that Kimmy was replying a little bit more to the
No, I know.
troll
I'm
that
saying,
was messing. Oh, okay.
no, I know. But the question is visiting Punjab generally considered a significant religious pilgrimage?
So
This is a question. Kimmy's putting this in the chat from like IG or somewhere else.
It's in my understanding that we don't have, as we weren't supposed to have pilgrimages and things like that. I think it's unspoken that most people want to go there, but I don't, at least from what I can recall, we don't believe in pilgrimages.
Yeah,
well, we don't believe in having like holier sites, but there are pilgrimages in the sense of there's this word called yatras,
Okay.
which is just basically visiting certain places that have certain vibrations or that are historically significant. But it is not in any way to say that someone who does that or who has visited someplace is a better Sikh than someone who hasn't. That is absolutely not the case. So we don't. So maybe. I mean, in certain faith traditions, there's clearly a calling to do things at least
that's
once
what I
in
was
your
gonna
life.
say.
Exactly.
And
right.
so
that's the distinction I was going to make. We don't have that
agree
distinction. Yeah, we don't have that distinction where it's like at least once you need to go to Punjab and do XYZ. We don't have that.
We don't have that.
Yes, there are like significant places that are like encouraged.
So for example,
just
there are
like
the 5 takhats. And so like the Akal Takht is at Sri Harmandir Sahib. And so that can be considered a special location. But in terms of visiting the state of Punjab, just to visit the state of Punjab, I think that if somebody asks that question, and I'm not saying this of Kimmy, I'm saying like referring to the group chat and referring to the person who was DMing, I think that kind of reflects a kind of a cultural value.
Yes.
And so, like, oh, are you coming to like visit Punjab? Because like Punjab is the state is like so amazing, and you have to like, you know, just being in Punjab is like some sort of thing. Like, you can be a very devoted, committed, pious Sikh and never visit Punjab in your life.
Yeah.
And so the two are not really connected in any way. And I think that people that conflate the two, oftentimes they're showing themselves, then
Yeah.
they're a little bit off track.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, that's well said. That's exactly what I was ultimately trying to get at. Yes, yeah, we don't have that specific like command where it's like you need to do X, Y, Z, and if you, it's to me, it's very similar to learning Gurmukhi or Punjabi, right? Where like I do think that like if you can learn it, if you have an interest in learning it, I think it's beneficial, right? I think that being able to read the text in its original language is always beneficial. I say this as somebody who like loves linguistics and language and has an affinity for it, though, right? But if you, whether it's a learning disability or you just don't have the capacity to learn another language, or for whatever reason that's just not accessible to you, it doesn't mean that you are not allowed to be a Sikh. It doesn't mean that you're not allowed to practice Sikhi, or that you are less of a Sikh because you do not speak Punjabi or are not able to read Gurmukhi or anything like that. So that it's similar to me in that sense, where it's like, sure, if you can get to these places and do these things and check them out, go for it. Like, highly recommend, right? Like, I've been to India, went a couple weeks, highly recommend. And if you can't, and if you never do, that's okay too. Like, you're not like less of a Sikh or because you aren't able to do that. Let me see. I'm not sure about pilgrimage. Let me see. I'm gonna put that. I'm not sure about pilgrimage, but the Guru gave Hukam to partake in Diwali at. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not gonna say all that because my pronunciation is gonna be a mess. So I want to get to there's a couple of comments that I missed. Okay, yeah, this is one that I definitely want to Gurdwaras are becoming the most unsafe spaces, which is wild. They serve upper caste hetero men. I'm not 100% sure what this is in response to, but I will say that as somebody who was so excited, who traveled a lot and would try to visit at least one Gurdwara in every place that I went to and try to meet other Sikhs and other things, for that to be like now a thing that is not safe for me to do because I'm Black is like, it's just disappointing, but it's really annoying when I think about it. Like, I remember saying, like, I wish we could like go on a tour and figure out, like, almost like test the Gurdwaras and see like which ones are actually welcoming, right? And almost write like a green book. If you guys don't know what a green book is, it's like back when Jim Crow era, they had a book that they passed out to Black Americans and let them know what places were safe, what places were sundown towns. Like, sundown towns meaning you needed to be out of this city before the sunset, or hey, you could go to this cafe. You can't stay here after dark, but this cafe will serve Black people, or this hotel or this inn will serve Black people. And like, I almost feel like we need a thing like that. It's like, oh, this Gurdwara might be great, but this one, yeah, stay away. Or I don't know. And I'm not saying that that's actually necessary, but I'm just saying like, it is just, it's really disappointing and disheartening that like this thing that was like so exciting, that was part of my Sikh journey, is like a thing that I don't feel safe doing anymore.
Well, I mean, it sucks to say it, but to a certain degree, because we are some of the, I guess, ones right now, I mean, that are probably doing the most. It probably take a lot of those that are connected here to even start to be the ones that can confirm or put that information out. By unfortunately us doing that kind of labor.
Yeah.
Do I have a question? So, do y'all ever, like, when you go to a Gurdwara, do you ever feel like you want to get involved in stuff, but you just kind of feel weird because it's like, I don't know, not necessarily people have to come to you and say like, "What's up? Hey," like this and that. It's just like,
Yeah, I will say it wasn't until I found the Gurdwara out here, and it's unfortunately it's a 3HL Gurdwara, but it is what it is, where I've been able to do seva. And but again, a lot of that has to do with the fact that like my mentor spotted me, saw that I was new, and kind of took me under her wing immediately, right? It's a Black woman, it's an older Black woman who's been practicing since the 70s. And she, like I said, she was responsible for washing like the sheets or whatever after every Sunday. And so after like meditation class, I would bring my laundry and I would have it in the car, right? And so and we would go to the laundromat that was right across the street, and she would wash the sheets from the Gurdwara and I'd wash my laundry. We'd sit there and talk, and she would teach me, and that's how I started to get more involved and do more seva at the Gurdwara, But if it wasn't for that, just because I am more shy, and I am more somebody who's like more observant and like low key, and I will have to I will sit back until I really feel like comfortable. It probably would have taken me a long time. I don't know, maybe never, but I probably would have done it eventually because I am somebody who's like really big on community service, and like, SEV is a big thing for me in general, like even outside of SIKH. So I probably would have done it eventually, but I wouldn't have done it if I didn't feel comfortable, if I didn't feel welcome. And most of the other Gurdwaras I've been to, I already know off top, I would have never done it, but I also wouldn't have gone every Sunday. So
without guidance, it can be very easy for imposter syndrome to set in.
Absolutely.
So you don't want to participate because you don't feel like you're like you even have a right to take up any space or say anything.
Yeah, 100%. That's something we should talk about more though, like, how to get involved, dealing with imposter syndrome, knowing what to do, feeling like, because it can be tough, because I do worry about like, oh, what if I mess this up? Like as a Black Sikh, I definitely don't want to be wrong. I definitely don't want to mess this up. I definitely want to get this wrong. I want to be, and I don't know that, Punjabi Sikhs even have that expectation to never be wrong or to never get something wrong or whatever. But I do think that there's an advantage if you've been going your entire life, you kind of know what to expect and things like that. So I don't know. But that's something we should definitely talk about more, because it's something that I've definitely thought about, and I'm sure most Black Sikhs or non-Punjabi Sikhs have. See, every child deserves a parent, but not every parent deserves a child. 100% agree. They've also done studies that teachers' expectations affects the students' educational outcomes. Yeah, for sure. This is something that we talked about earlier, where we said that studies show that Black women teachers have the highest outcomes of Black students, especially Black male students, but Black students in general, and then that white women teachers have the lowest expectations. And I said that that's something that I've seen through my lived experience, both as a student and as an educator. So yeah. Let me see. I think that might be it. Again, I'm gonna put these two on the screen because I really want, if you haven't had a chance to check out these stories, these you really should. It was, I don't know. It was they were stories. They were things that kind of like let me know, that confirmed that I was like in the right place, like I was practicing the right faith, that I was correct in my beliefs. So good looking out, Jode Singh, for that. I really appreciate it. Because I always say like I'm gonna look it up, and I'm like, and I always forget. That's how I be with ADHD. All right, anything else? I think that's it. Let's get out of here. We definitely went overtime. And I'm ready to get into bed. I feel like crap. So, many located in Punjab, so you consider. Yeah. No, visiting Punjab in general isn't considered a religious site. Yeah, no, not just Punjab in general. Not just like you need to step foot on Punjabi land and now you're on a holy. No, that's not how it works. Anyways, anything else? Anybody before we get out of here? Anything? Any last words?
Thanks for letting me join in.
Always. You're muted if you're talking, Ray.
Thank you for coming. We definitely appreciate your insight so much.
Yeah, always, for sure. You definitely have some perspective that because this is the thing. It does. I could learn all day. I could learn all that there is to learn about Sikhi, right? And coming from a Christian family, not coming from a Sikh family, a Punjabi family, there are just things that like I'm just not gonna know. There are perspectives I'm not gonna have, and so it's always beneficial and it's always helpful to first of all be in community and be in space with people who do have those perspectives and can help me out, because I am somebody who, like I said, I'm big on having mentors, and I'm big on being like, let me ask somebody who knows better. I'm good at being like, I don't know, or who has a better perspective. And so Deep, I really appreciate you. And let me be specific. It's important to have those people that you can go to that you also know are not anti-Black, right? That are, or at the very least, aware of anti-Blackness and challenging it, and not and are pro-Black in that way. That is very important, right? So that you feel safe. The last thing you want to do is go ask somebody for advice and they give you some advice that's real wild. So yeah, so Deep, I appreciate you always. You're welcome anytime.
Thank you so much.
All right, so we're gonna get out of here. Again, my name is Smalls. We got
Ray,
Nique,
and Deep, and we'll be here maybe next week or maybe the week after. We'll see. This is going to be like a more chill conversation, more chill space Wednesday night lives. If any of you want to ever join, if you have anything that you want to say, if you want to like come and spit something for a few minutes and just hop off, let us know. Just hit us up, DM us. A lot of y'all have said some dope things in the comments that I actually wish y'all were on the live so we could have had that conversation on live. So if y'all are ever interested and comfortable, for sure, feel free to come on. But yeah, we're gonna get out of here. We appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for your time. Peace, y'all.